I thought I knew Michael, my husband of 12 years. Together, we'd built a comfortable life, a cozy home, 3 wonderful kids, the kind of stability I always imagined in a marriage. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it felt solid. It was dependable. I never imagined that there was a part of him I didn't know, a part of his heart he'd locked away, hidden from me all this time. One day, I was cleaning out our attic, sorting through the things we'd collected over the years, deciding what to keep and what to toss. I stumbled across a worn-out leather-bound journal buried under old papers and knickknacks. It looked aged, the kind of notebook you'd pick up to capture private thoughts, dreams, and maybe secrets. The name on the first page, written in his handwriting, confirmed it was Michael's. My hands hesitated on its cover, feeling the weight of the decision I was about to make. Should I read it? I sat on the floor, the dust of the attic around me, and finally opened it. The pages were filled with his handwriting, raw and emotional. And as I began to read, I quickly realized this wasn't a journal from any recent years. The entries were from a time long before we met, from the days when he was young, free, and wildly in love. The words were about a woman named Anna. Each sentence pulled me into the intense, passionate love they shared. He wrote about her in ways I never imagined he could, his words vivid and filled with admiration. He described her smile, the way her laughter filled his heart, how she made him feel alive. Reading those words felt like stepping into a dream, only it wasn't mine. It was a part of his heart, buried deep, but never gone. In each page, I could feel his longing for her, his memories of their adventures, and the way he felt like the world had opened up when they were together. His descriptions were so intense, like he was reliving every single moment in the strokes of his pen. And then, slowly, his words turned somber. The pages filled with sadness, loss, and heartbreak as he described how it all ended. He didn't write why or how, only that she left a wound in him that time hadn't healed. She was his forever love, the one he lost but never forgot. My hands shook as I continued to read. It was painful, yet I couldn't stop. Somewhere in the entries he mentioned me, casually at first. He referred to me as a good woman, someone he trusted and admired, someone he felt he could build a life with. But there was something missing in his words, something that made it clear he wasn't writing with the same passion he'd reserved for Anna. I was his stability, his present. She was his dream, his past, a love he'd never truly let go. I closed the journal with a heavy heart, feeling like I'd just uncovered a piece of his soul that he'd hidden from me all these years. The weight of that discovery settled into my chest like a stone, one that refused to be lifted. I tried to tell myself it was only natural to have memories of past loves. But this wasn't just a memory. She was still a part of him, a part of his heart that had never fully healed. For days, I wrestled with my emotions. I felt betrayed, as if a piece of him I'd believed was mine had belonged to someone else all along. It wasn't fair. I was the one who'd stood by him, supported him, raised our children with him. I was the one who shared his life now, who'd helped him build a future. But somehow, knowing that a part of his heart was still with her made all those years feel hollow. What had we been building if he'd never fully let her go? One night, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I approached him after the kids were asleep, my heart racing, my hands cold. I told him I'd found the journal, that I'd read his words, and that I knew. I knew about Anna and what she'd meant to him. His face changed as I spoke, a mixture of shock and sadness. He tried to find the right words, stumbling, but eventually he said he was sorry. Sorry for holding on to that part of his past, for keeping those memories, for not being honest. He admitted he loved me, that our life together was one he cherished. He said he loved being a father, loved our family, and that he never wanted to hurt me. But he didn't deny the truth. He didn't deny that a part of his heart still lingered with her. The silence between us felt endless, a chasm that grew wider with every passing second. That night, lying beside him, I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering if I'd ever be enough for him, if I'd ever truly own his whole heart, the person I'd spent over a decade with, the father of my children, the man I thought I knew so well. He was still carrying a piece of his past that I couldn't touch, a piece that wasn't mine. In the days that followed, I found myself questioning everything. Should I continue to be with someone who couldn't fully give me his heart? Could I ever be content knowing I'd always be in the shadow of another woman, a ghost that still haunted his memories? I loved him. I loved the life we'd built, and leaving felt unimaginable. But staying felt like a betrayal of my own heart, my own worth. I confided in my best friend, hoping she could offer some clarity, but even she was at a loss for words. She told me to think about my happiness, to remember that I deserved to be loved fully, without reservation. She urged me to talk to Michael again, to see if he could truly let go of his past and commit himself completely to the present. I did confront him once more, asking him if he could let her go, if he could put the past to rest for the sake of our family, for the love we'd built. He said he would try, but the look in his eyes told me it wouldn't be easy. And maybe, in the end, it would be impossible. Now, I'm standing at a crossroads. I know that leaving would tear apart the life we've built, disrupt our family, and break my heart. But staying might mean living a life where I'd always feel like second place, like a substitute for a love that never truly faded. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Michael will find a way to let go of Anna and fully embrace the life we've created. Or maybe I'll have to let go of him to find my own happiness. All I know is that, for now, I'm left with a heart that feels heavier than ever, filled with questions I don't have answers for. They say that the heart has reasons that reason itself cannot understand. For 10 years, I thought I knew every corner of my husband James's heart. He was the kind of man who, once he let you in, made you feel safe, steady, and unfailingly kind. From our early days in college, I was drawn to his warmth, the quiet calm he carried with him even in a room full of noise. Together, we built a life, raised a family, shared dreams, and, to everyone who knew us, we had a perfect marriage. But what is perfection if not an illusion? It's strange how a single discovery can tear apart the foundations you thought were so strong. That discovery, for me, came on a rainy evening while I was reorganizing our office, hoping to finally tackle the pile of two-sort boxes in the back closet. I remember the soft patter of rain against the window, the quiet of the house. It was so ordinary, just another evening in a decade of evenings, and yet I found that letter. It was folded carefully in a faded envelope, tucked away as if it held a secret too precious or too painful to be left in plain sight. My first instinct was not to open it. The envelope was addressed to someone named Sarah, written in James's unmistakable handwriting. It felt like a private memory, one I had no right to intrude upon. But curiosity and a strange, almost foreboding feeling gnawed at me. Sarah was a name I'd never heard James mention in all the years we'd been together. I wondered who she could be and why this letter had been hidden away, untouched. The moment I opened it, I felt the weight of every word pressing down on my heart. Inside was a love letter, beautiful, raw, and painfully sincere. James's words spilled across the page almost like poetry, his emotions laid bare in a way I had never seen from him before. The letter wasn't dated, but it felt timeless in its honesty. He described Sarah with a reverence and intensity that felt sacred, like he was talking about a piece of his soul. He recalled their first meeting, the way she laughed, and how her presence felt like the warmth of the sun on a winter's day. I kept reading, my heart sinking further with each line, and then, about halfway through, I came upon the words that shattered me completely. "I will always love you, Sarah, but I have to let you go. Life took us in different directions, and now I must move forward." I sat there for what felt like an eternity, clutching that letter as if it might give me answers to questions I didn't even know I had. Who was this woman that my husband had loved so deeply? Had he really let her go? Or had he been carrying her in his heart, like a ghost between us all these years? That night, as the rain continued to fall, I confronted James. I went downstairs, found him in the living room, and handed him the letter without a word. I expected him to be defensive, to brush it off as something from a past life, but the look on his face told me everything. His eyes widened, his hands trembled slightly as he took the letter, and he sat down heavily, as if the weight of it was too much to bear. For the first time in our marriage, James opened up in a way I had never imagined he would. He told me about Sarah, his first love, the woman who had changed his life. They had met when they were young, even younger than when he and I had met. She was his confidant, his best friend, the person who understood him better than anyone else ever had, or so he had thought. They had planned a future together, shared dreams of what life might be, but, as is often the case, life had other plans. Circumstances beyond their control tore them apart, and despite their best efforts, they had to say goodbye. With tears in his eyes, James told me that letting her go was one of the hardest things he had ever done. He explained that he had kept the letter as a reminder, not just of her, but of the man he had been, and of the strength it took to move on when everything in him wanted to hold on. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for understanding, and said, "I love you. I chose you, but some loves never truly leave us, no matter how much we move forward." It hurt to hear, but in that moment, I saw James in a way I never had before. He was no longer just my husband, the man I thought I knew inside and out. He was someone who had loved, lost, and carried that loss silently, all while building a new life with me. I saw his vulnerability, the rawness of his emotions, and for the first time, I understood that love is rarely simple or clean. We all carry pieces of our past loves with us, scars and memories that shape who we are, even when we don't mean to. Over the next few weeks, our conversations became deeper, more honest, sometimes painfully so. We talked about love, loss, and the parts of ourselves we kept hidden, even from each other. I realized that, in a strange way, Sarah's memory had brought us closer. I no longer felt threatened by the past because I understood that James's love for me was different, but just as real. In the end, I made a choice too. A choice to love James, not just for who he is with me, but for the complex, layered person he is, scars and all. I learned that love is not about erasing the past, but about embracing the person it has made us. Our relationship didn't end that night. If anything, it deepened, growing roots that were stronger, more resilient. It was a painful lesson, but a necessary one. Love, real love, is accepting all of a person, their past, their present, and the parts of them that may never fully belong to you.